Hello, it's Rie. Welcome to my channel. Today, I would like to talk about how I ended up studying abroad. 今日はどうして私が留学することになったのかお話ししていきたいと思います。Growing up in a small fisherman town in Chiba, I didn't encounter many opportunities to speak English growing up. My mother was working at the library, so I read a lot of books. And I was given an English book about a bear and his friends, and it came with a cassette tape which had English songs on it. I always enjoyed dancing to the music, but I never really understood what they were saying. I started learning English when I was in middle school as a part of the school curriculum.Basic grammar and vocabulary. I tried to do my best at school because I didn't want my parents to worry about me. When I was trying to decide which high school I would go to, I really wanted to move to Tokyo because I wanted to have better opportunities and be in the entertainment business. My family didn't have a house in Tokyo and I didn't have a place to stay if I were going to a high school in Tokyo, so I thought of ways I can make it happen and persuade my parents. I decided to call my uncle who has a house in Tokyo and told him that I really wanted to move to Tokyo and study harder. And then I told my mom that if I'm not going to high school in Tokyo, I'm not going to high school.I was certain that going to Tokyo would provide me better opportunities. My mother and I had discussions, and we decided that moving to Tokyo would allow me to pursue my passion for performing arts, but also benefit me academically as well. So I moved to Tokyo by myself to stay with my aunt and uncle and studied hard at high school. I asked for favors from my family, so I thought,Excelling academically was my way of giving back and showing my appreciation. At this point, I never thought of going overseas, and I have never been to a foreign country. I just worked hard, took English classes, got good grades, and passed tests. And when I was deciding which university to go to, I chose a college that was one of the hardest to get into.At the time, I belonged to a modeling agency and was working part-time. I was taking dance classes and modeling lessons. Balancing life at school and outside of school was pretty difficult. I really have to use my time efficiently. I really wanted to get into the university as a 現役 student. This means I didn't want to wait for a year to try out for the entrance exam because Japanese colleges only admit students once a year.So I decided to study probably 18 hours a day. I wasn't sleeping much and I don't recommend this to anyone. I was walking, studying, and reading books. Even when I was eating lunch, I was studying and had books in my hands. After school, I took dance classes and then went to the cram school to study even more.And then probably got back to my house around 11 p.m. and after that I studied a little bit more before going to bed. And the next day I would repeat the same thing. I barely had any time left for socializing and being actually present with my family. It was pretty unrealistic. I studied as much as I could, but I felt like it was never enough.Also, I now realized that going to the cram school wasn't the best option for me.I always liked studying at my own pace, so yeah, it just didn't work. I did well in school, but it was because I studied hard. It wasn't because I was born particularly genius or anything. As times went by, I started to notice a little shift in my mental state. I wasn't smiling much, I constantly felt tired, and then I started to feel anxiety and then really started to feel depressed. It got to the point that I couldn't really think anymore, and then I didn't even want to go to school. And I didn't want to talk much. Even when my family members tried to talk to me, I would kind of drift off and then not answer. I started to skip schools and wander around a city in Tokyo. I just couldn't figure out the purpose in my life, and the true meaning of education. Also, as an impressionable young girl working in entertainment, there were definitely things I've experienced that were quite toxic. So, dealing with everything around me was quite daunting. For the university entrance examination, I studied English very hard and I tried to master all the vocabulary from the workbooks. And I did at least one material for reading, writing, and listening every day. And I haven't started speaking yet because it wasn't on the test, which I highly regret that I didn't do. When my mother saw me feeling depressed, she suggested that maybe entering a Japanese university isn't the only path. She just read a book about studying abroad and thought going to the US and experiencing different cultures might be good for me. She also felt that my personality might be a better fit in America since I was usually a sticking out nail. There is a Japanese saying that 出る釘は打たれる, which means a nail that sticks out gets hammered down. She heard that in America, people value individuality more. She said something like, あなたはちょっと変わってるから留学とかも合ってるかもしれないよ. You're a bit different. Have you ever thought of studying abroad? So, her words planted a seed in my mind and I gave it a thought. I think it was around Sentashiken, National Center Test for your Japanese University Administration in Japan. So it was around January or February. I thought about it and decided that it would be a better choice for me to study abroad. I also felt the strong need to change the way I live my life. That's why I thought going abroad would be good for me. I really liked dancing, so my choices were New York or LA. Since I was more into street dancing, and I heard LA is more commercial, whereas New York is more theatrical, such as Broadway, I decided to go to LA. My mother and I visited English language schools in Tokyo and studied abroad help centers and did some research. I personally concluded that it would be the quickest to learn if I put myself into a situation where I had to use English. After a couple of months, in April, I was in Los Angeles and started attending the language school. Before moving to the States, I took probably 3 or 4 English conversation classes at the Study Abroad Help Center. I also self-submitted the application for the student visa since a person at the help center told me if you're studying abroad, it's better to be independent and able to read important documents. I agree with what he said. So I did that and I tried to study as much as I could before coming to the States. However, when I first moved to the US, I barely spoke English and understood English. So that is how I ended up studying abroad, and that's my story leading up to moving to the US. Takeaway from my story would be, you don't necessarily have to be completely ready to go overseas, but it is always better to prepare as much as you can. My experience of living overseas has been fun and interesting, but also there were times things were quite challenging. You definitely have to work hard in order to make things happen for yourself, and it is essential to be proactive. If you're watching this and dreaming of living overseas, I am wishing you the best of luck, and I hope you will make your dreams come true. Thank you so much for watching and sending you lots of love. こういった動画をまた今後もアップしていきますので、よかったらいいねとチャンネル登録お願いします。Thank you and see you next time. Bye!